Good afternoon. Welcome to your YouTube channel for today. I hope you've had a good week, and I'm sure the weekend went way too fast. And now you're gearing up for Monday. Stinking Monday, some people call it. But nevertheless, the beginning of the work week starts tomorrow. I'm hoping that you can relax for the next little while as we talk. I'm going to touch on an important subject today. I want to examine the situation that took place last week at the Academy Awards. I'm going to examine some psychological factors, provide some clinical information, along with my observations, and some biblical information to bring greater light and understanding to what took place last week. Once again, as a licensed psychologist, I'm only providing psychoeducational information and my professional opinion in regards to that incident. And I'm not looking to render any diagnosis, just providing, once again, psychoeducational information for your understanding. The Academy Award, popularly known as the Oscars, are awards for artistic, technical merit in the film industry. They are regarded by many as the most prestigious and significant awards in the entertainment industry worldwide. It's given annually by the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts, and Sciences. The awards are an international recognition of excellence in cinematic achievements as assessed by the Academy's voting membership. The Academy Awards honors the best films released between March the 1st and December 31st, 2021. Categories such as Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actresses, and so forth. 2,500 attendees were present for the ceremony. Now, let me highlight that word, ceremony. A ceremony is a formal public occasion with a purpose, and the purpose is to confer honor. A ceremony has specific protocol, basic rules of conduct, and decorum. Everything is orchestrated. The 94th Academy Awards achieved a significant milestone. Will Packer was the first African American to produce the awards with an extremely diverse team and staff. Now, I'm sure there are sentiments such as, don't let him produce. He can't handle it. You know that they're going to blow it. There is some pressure on Will Packer and his team to put together something outstanding, something memorable, given the opportunity to do something of this magnitude for people of color. So it was a major event. The awards ceremony was overshadowed, unfortunately, by the incident when Will Smith walked on stage and slapped comedian Chris Rock in the face when he made a joke about Will's wife. I've received many phone calls, text messages, emails about the incident. People were asking me to share my thoughts. Also in my office, the patients that I talked to this past week wanted to focus on this situation. I was encouraged to do a YouTube live by the people coming to my office the past week about the incident. And I was directed by a number of people to watch the Red Table Talk between Will and his wife. I did watch that, and I will share some of my own thoughts, opinions, and insights. I hope to share some of the text messages I received from a few celebrities as we move along. Now, here's a statement that I always make to young people who come to see me and adult males. And here it is. The circumstances do not make the man, but it reveals him. Let me say that again. The circumstances do not make the man, but it reveals him. It reveals that man, what's inside of him. These are true words. Throughout the ages, seemingly great men and women have been exposed to less than noble, less than genuine, and even less than human when faced with challenging situations. What are you going to do when you are faced with a really difficult situation in your life? How are you going to handle it? Because how you handle it will speak volumes about you. Now, watching this great revealing is the stuff that history and legends are made of. Observing a person in a challenging situation or circumstances will manifest much about who they are deep inside of them and what they are likely to do in the future. What you are at your core, at the center of strength, and that ability to do what is right under pressure, or even when no one is looking, is at the core of your personal integrity. Your integrity reveals your greatness to the world. Think of your integrity as your moral compass. It guides you. It steers you in the right path that you should go. It helps you to make good decisions in difficult circumstances. And yes, in this game of life, we will have challenges. But how we deal with those challenging moments in our lives will tell people exactly who you are. Now, let me transition to the Red Table Talk. And here's what I observed with Will and his wife as they dialogued. So here's my personal and professional analysis. Now, once I provide my analysis, then I believe you will understand greater in terms of Will's and his wife's behavior as it unfolded at the Academy Awards. Just stay with me because I'm going somewhere with this. As a psychologist, I tell my patients that the hardest part of my job is to understand the things that people don't tell me. That's the hardest part of my job, to just be able to understand that. The second hardest part of my job is to understand clearly and accurately the things that people are telling me. And finally, as a psychologist, I am trained to interpret behavior. So the two big parts of my job is to listen carefully and to watch things carefully. That way I take in all the information that I need so I can make the right hypotheses and I can conceptualize the situation in the right way. So after watching the Red Table Talk, I noted that there was a significant amount of laughter, especially on Will's part. So that raised a bit of a red flag for me. And here's why. They were talking about an extremely painful and serious subject that had significant implications and ramifications for their marriage. So when you're talking about something that has tremendous gravity and is really important, laughter should not be the common denominator. So in my opinion, Will was using the laughter as a defense mechanism. Now, what exactly is a defense mechanism? In psychoanalysis theory, a defense mechanism is an unconscious psychological operation that functions to protect a person from anxiety, producing thoughts and feelings related to internal conflict and stressors. The laughter as a defense mechanism helps to take away the pain associated with a conversation between them. So Will was laughing externally, but internally, Will was weeping. So I think that's an important point to make. The laughter is helping Will to cope with the pain that he's experiencing internally at the moment. Here's my next point. I was happy to hear Will's wife state that she had some codependency struggles from her childhood. Codependency is an emotional and behavioral condition that affects an individual's ability to have a healthy relationship, a mutually satisfying relationship. It also is known as a relationship addiction because people with codependency often form or maintain relationships that are one-sided emotionally, and they can be destructive emotionally and or abusive. To her credit, she wanted to help this young man. I didn't get the impression that Will's wife addressed her issue professionally about codependency and abuse and neglect that took place in her childhood. Psychologically, she is focusing on her pain that she has not dealt with because she's distracting herself from her unresolved pain by focusing on someone else's pain so that she can feel important, needed, and valued. I was hoping to hear her say that she received professional help for her codependency struggles. So I'm not sure if she did or if she did not. But with those types of challenging conditions that we struggle with, it is extremely important that we do get professional help. Now, here's my second point. Will's wife called the relationship with the young man an entanglement. That's an interesting word. But the correct terminology is an affair. That's what took place. If you have a dog and you call the dog a cat, it's still a dog. So as I said, that word entanglement is an interesting word, but the bottom line is that it was an affair. And it was a full-blown affair from what I heard watching the Red Table Talk. From watching that talk, I gathered that the young man that she was involved with was a family friend and also a friend of her son. Now, this makes things even more complicated and more egregious. And going one step further, it's major betrayal, which is deeply painful for Will. I have dealt with people, I've seen people in my office who have struggled with betrayal. And here's one thing that I can tell you about betrayal is that it damages the human psyche. The psyche is the human soul, mind, and spirit of a person. The psyche is everything that makes you who you are. Will's psyche was damaged. And this affair is a major affront to his ego, his manhood, and his masculinity. These are important variables that can produce feelings of inadequacy and tremendous self-doubt. It shakes your confidence to the core. One of the things that I would make in terms of an observation about Will is that he's a sensitive man. He's a gentle man, despite what he did to Chris Rock. But I think internally, he's a good person. He's sensitive. He is caring. And Will likes to be a pleaser. But when it comes to these variables that have been shaken, he now has to prove his masculinity to his wife. She got entangled with a younger man. That has implications. Will, at some point, may be questioning his own masculinity. Here's my third point. Will's wife didn't appear to take responsibility or ownership for the affair. It seems as if they had talked about a separation, but they were still married when the affair occurred. With the use of the word entanglement, we're not seeing remorse, any accountability, or responsibility for her actions. And I understand that as human beings, it's extremely hard for us to take responsibility for the negative things that we do. When we look at it from a biblical perspective, if you remember when sin took place in the Garden of Eden, when God called to reckoning, he went to Adam first. He didn't go to Eve, even though Eve was first in sin. He went to the man. And the reason why he went to the man is because, number one, God has put the man in charge. The man is the leader. He's the head, and he's supposed to be the priest of his home. So when God went to Adam and he said, Adam, what have you done? Adam right away deflected the situation. He said, the woman that you gave me. He didn't take any responsibility for his actions. He was blaming God. When God went to the woman, when he went to Eve, she said, the serpent. So my point is that the man and the woman in the garden didn't take any responsibility for what they did, for their own wrongdoings. So when it comes to Will's wife, I understand. She didn't take any responsibility. Unfortunately, that's the ugly part of human nature. We don't like to take ownership of the negative things that we do. So it was easy for her to deflect. That's how we are. Human nature. We all like to take the good things, the positive things. Oh, yes, I did that. But when we make mistakes, it's hard for us to accept that. Here's my fourth point. Will's wife is more dominant in the relationship than Will. She seems to be the one who is controlling things. She seems to be the one who's in charge. Will appears to have less power than her because she appears to be more willing to leave the relationship. Will wants to stay in the relationship and make it work. So Will is invested in fighting for his marriage more so than his wife. He really wants to be with her more so than she wants to be with him. That was my observation in terms of the Red Table Talk. Here's another point. Will was extremely emotional. His affect, meaning how he presented. When I look at him facially, because that's all about your affect, your eyes, the things that you're giving off. He was extremely emotional. And he was expressing himself, which showed that he was broken. There was tremendous disappointment. He was saddened. He was grieved. He was wounded by his wife's behavior. He was teary-eyed and disheveled. Will strikes me as a sensitive man, as I said earlier. His pain was clearly evident to me, and his pain wasn't acknowledged by his wife. His wife didn't connect with his feelings on an affective level. I didn't hear her say, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry for what I've done. I see that I've hurt you, and I'm feeling your pain right now. These were important words for Will to hear from his wife. Now, maybe she said that later. I don't know. But I didn't get that at the Red Table Talk, and I think that's important to talk about. I didn't hear that. Those words would have brought some comfort. I was told that Will's wife wanted to have an open marriage. And once again, I'm not certain, but that's what I was told. In my office, when couples come to see me and they want to talk or explore an open marriage or an open relationship, 10 times out of 10, it's the man that's asking for that type of a relationship, not the woman. And I see all kinds of cases. But trust me, it's the man that is asking the woman, let's have an open relationship. The women are in protest. So I find it very intriguing that Will's wife was asking for an open marriage. Now, once again, I don't know if she was, but that's what I'm told. But once again, it's interesting that as the woman, as the wife, she's asking for that. And in the situations that I see in my office, I tell people, don't think about that type of a relationship because it will bring damage to the relationship. When you're asking for an open relationship or an open marriage, the message is, I want to be with you, but I want to also be with other people. And that is not the goal of marriage. The goal of marriage, to be honest, is to reveal God's glory to each other. That's the most important goal of marriage. Because in that marital relationship, there's going to be challenges, there's going to be struggles. Your partner will give you the greatest pain and the greatest joy. And when the greatest pain comes, that's when we have to reveal God's glory to each other by demonstrating those attributes of God, such as forgiveness, mercy, grace, compassion, all those beautiful attributes. So if your partner is asking you about consideration for an open marriage, in my professional opinion, slam the door shut on that, because it will be a disaster. And all I can say is just trust me on that one. As a psychologist, I know that relationships, especially the marital relationship, is extremely difficult to navigate your way through. Being in a marriage can be one of the greatest challenges that you will ever embark on, because problems come about in many different ways, shapes, and forms all the time. And one of the main reasons is that the enemy, the arch enemy, in the Hebrew we call him Hasatan, the Satan, the serpent. He hates what God loves. God loves families. God loves families, and he loves marriages. And the enemy hates what God loves. So it's not easy to be in a committed marital relationship. It can be difficult because as people, we come into relationships broken. So many of us are struggling in terms of our family of origin, our childhood experiences. Some of us, we know that our parents didn't love us. They didn't want us. We had negative relationships with them. Some of us have been emotionally, physically, and sexually abused. And I can go on and on and on. The greatest struggle on earth is in the area of relationships. A celebrity marriage isn't easy. There's limited privacy. Everything becomes public. And a marriage is supposed to be a private situation between two people and their families. So yes, celebrities have a difficult time. The one problem that they don't have is finances. But all the other stuff, it comes at them hard. Now let's take a moment to analyze the incident at the awards. That was a night I didn't watch the Academy Awards. I only caught the footage the next day. And a lot of people said, I thought it was staged. But when I saw that footage, there's nothing staged about it.
Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith.
The feed goes silent, and so does the audience after Will Smith takes a swing at Chris Rock on stage at the Oscars. It all went down after Chris made a crack about Will's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, and her shaved head.
Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right? that was a nice one. Okay.
While Will appears to laugh at first, things immediately turn sour as he takes to the stage, slapping Chris straight across the face.
Uh-oh, Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith.
The sound on the broadcast suddenly cut out in the moments following the altercation, but international markets saw the feed in full. Will shouting at the top of his lungs, "Keep my wife's name out of your mouth." Clearly shaken and unsure how to proceed, Chris responds the best way he knows how with another joke.
That was a greatest night in the history of television. Okay.
So what happened next? E.T. has learned that Denzel Washington and Tyler Perry pulled Will aside for a private chat during the commercial break that followed. Denzel was up against his pal for the Best Actor trophy at the show.
I mean, you know, it's a lot of emotions. This is a long time, well, I think a long time coming for him. And it's a lot of emotion, and it's probably all welling up in him right now, so it better be him.
The trio hugged, and it appeared things had calmed down. A source tells E.T., quote, "The theater was silent after Will got up and hit Chris. No one could tell if it was staged or a joke at first. It was incredibly awkward for the whole audience. Will's friends and team have been trying to calm him down."
Oh, wow. Wow.
As for why the joke may have hit a nerve for the couple, Jada was diagnosed with alopecia in 2018, a hair loss condition which she has spoken about publicly many times.
And y'all know I've been struggling with alopecia, and just all of a sudden one day, look at this line right here. Look at that. Look at that. And so it just showed up like that. Now this is going to be a little bit more difficult for me to hide. So I thought I'd just share it so y'all not asking any questions.
And earlier in the night, co-host Regina Hall made a jab at Jada, which could have also contributed to Will storming the stage.
Will Smith, you're married, but you know what? You're on the list and looks like Jada approved you, so you get on up here. Get on up here.
It's also worth noting, Chris made digs about Jada when he hosted the show back in 2016, too. So there's history here. Will got a chance to address the incident when he won the Best Actor honor, his first ever Academy Award.
You got to be able to have people talk crazy about you. In this business, you got to be able to have people disrespecting you. And you got to smile and you got to pretend like that's okay. Art imitates life.
All right. So you've seen the footage. Very, very emotional. So let's analyze the incident at the awards. Chris is the MC for the ceremony. He gets paid to make jokes. Chris is doing his thing. And yes, it's always important to be sensitive to others, especially when they're struggling, with certain conditions. He makes a joke concerning Will's wife. One might say that it's not a good joke because alopecia is a medical condition which she has no control over. If you notice, Will seems to be laughing at the joke initially. But when his wife gives him that look, his demeanor quickly changes. Now, men, you know what I'm talking about when your wife gives you her look. You know what that means. Will knew that his wife's look was, I'm not happy with that joke because it's at my expense, and go and do something about it. Please remember that Will is struggling with his manhood. He's struggling with his masculinity. And Will wants to save his marriage. He wants his marriage to work. Give him credit for that. It is evident to me that Will is a pleaser, which I stated earlier. He wants to please his wife, and he wants to make her happy. I'm not giving Will any excuses. I'm not giving him any passes. But that look from his wife, I believe, put some pressure on Will. And I believe that it was the impetus that helped him to govern his negative behavior and physical assault on Chris Rock. Chris was rocked due to Will's emotional struggles, which mainly manifested from the difficulties with the relationship between Will and his wife. And some of the people that called me, women, they said, I have alopecia. And in the segment that we saw, his wife made it public in terms of her medical condition. But it struck a nerve, and I can understand that. And many say that Will was defending his wife. And that's a good thing when a man does that. But there are so many different ways that he could have defended her. Now, one celebrity that sent me an email said, if they're so offended, Will should have taken his wife's hand and walked out. They could have come back when Chris was off the stage. So that is a good point. It was a terrible night at the awards due to that incident. The entire community witnessed this, and it was extremely damaging to the community. It was embarrassing, extremely sad, and I was grieved to see that on television. Chris got rocked through no fault of his own. Will had so many options that night. He chose a poor option. I applaud Chris Rock for how he handled the situation. He didn't retaliate with violence. He handled himself as a true professional. He refused to press charges on Will. He was asked repeatedly by the LAPD to levy charges, but he did not. So I have to give him tremendous credit for that. He showed grace poise, calmness on the assault that was dished out to him. Now, could you imagine if Chris had retaliated? What a debacle that night would have been on national television. So, in my opinion, Chris saved the night. Chris didn't deserve that. I'm confident that he didn't have any malice behind the joke. And many will say, well, he got what he deserved. He overstepped his boundaries. So there are different sides as to how things played out. But certainly to be slapped down like that, absolutely not. That was wrong. And we will have to see how things will play out. Right now, Chris has not said too much. From what I've heard, he's taking time to process it. Some people have said that Will took advantage of Chris Rock's stature. Physically, Chris is not a big person. And some have said that if he was bigger, Will may not have stepped to him like that. And as men, especially African American men, we're taught to defend ourselves. I remember growing up, my mother would always encourage me not to fight at school. My father, on the other hand, he would say, if somebody does anything to you, if they hit you once, you hit them twice. You make sure. So that was a conflict for me. But in the end, I knew who I listened to. Because in our community, we're taught that don't be soft. And if someone does something to you, you handle it. But overall, it was a difficult and sad scenario. Very sad to watch. Two successful brothers entangled on national TV at the Academy Awards. I said that circumstances do not make the man, but reveal the man. Chris got rocked, but he showed that he was a big, strong man that night who handled the situation with grace and humor for what he's renowned for and what he gets paid handsomely to do for his talents. Will revealed that he clearly lost sight of the magnitude of the moment and the time and the place where he was. The significance of what was before him, the pomp and the circumstance of what was taking place. The honor that was being conferred on others and not just himself was overshadowed. Will thought that he was bigger than the moment for a split second. Chris deserved an Oscar for how he responded. He saved the night. He showed us what he was made of. He got rocked and he didn't fight back. And it takes a lot to do that. Chris understood the significance of the moment. He handled himself with decorum. He handled himself with class. And all the money in the world can't buy class. You either have it or you don't. When you have a platform, handle it appropriately because people are always watching. Do your best on your job, in your family, and in the community because people are always watching what we're doing. In my professional opinion, one of the most important signs of a man is when he can control himself, especially controlling his angry impulses, because anger is a powerful emotion. The research says that for a split second, when we become overwhelmed with anger, we go temporarily insane. And for that split second, we can kill people because that's how powerful anger is. So the number one sign of a man, in my professional opinion, is when he can control himself. And I know self-control is not easy, especially in challenging moments in our life. Chris did well. And yes, the joke, maybe he didn't have to make it. But as comedians, they have latitudes. And many say he crossed the line. And a lot of females did say Will was defending his wife. And I have no struggles with that. But we have to be careful how we do things. My wife, she would never allow me to embarrass myself in public. And one of the things that she will always say to me, are you sure that's what you want to do? So I know that she's looking out for me. And that's important. It's important to listen. Chris Rock, in my opinion, was a real hero of the 94th Academy Awards. Let's give Chris some props, serious props. I respect the fact that right now he stated that he's processing what happened. He's taking the time to absorb it. He's not being impulsive, which is absolutely appropriate. My respect for Chris has greatly increased. Now, Will, as I've said earlier, he's a good man, I believe. But like all of us, he has struggles. And I'm hoping that he will recover and he will take time to sort this out. It was a disappointing night at the Oscars, to say the least. Unfortunately, the negative stereotypes that some people have concerning African Americans was highlighted, and those stereotypes, unfortunately, was reinforced by Will's behavior. A lot of people will say African Americans, especially males, they're angry, they're violent, they're aggressive, they don't know how to behave in public, they're always starting trouble. I can go on and on and on. So sometimes we just have to be so careful because the littlest thing, the smallest, can set us off. But the circumstances don't make the man. They reveal him. What happened last week at the Oscars, it sent a terrible message to young people. The message is, if you have a problem with someone, you slap them down. That's not a good message. It's not a good message at all. There's so much to take away from last week's Oscars. As people, we are deeply flawed. Our flaws are not always obvious to everyone or even to ourselves. But if we go and talk to a trusted friend, a psychologist, a therapist, who is able to be completely honest and objective with us, we will see that they are obvious to someone who is paying attention. Our flaws and imperfections form barriers that prevent us from achieving our full potential in connecting to those around us, maintaining friendships, becoming the best version of who we are. Our flaws and shortcomings prevent us from fully connecting with our God, who infuses us and the world around us. Let's do our personal best to make the world around us a better place. It's my pleasure. I hope that you gained some information and some understanding from our YouTube presentation today. I encourage you, just like I'm doing. I'm praying for Will and his family, and I'm praying for Chris and his family, because as human beings, we struggle. We struggle, especially in the area of relationships. But despite the debacle that came about last week, I know that God is able to bring something exceedingly great from such a horrible situation. And I'm just watching and praying what he's going to do. Thank you. Be safe and be blessed. Good night.